The Genesis Scottish Open was supposed to be Scottie Scheffler's final tune-up for the Open Championship, a $9 million co-sanctioned event, a links test to prepare him for Royal Birkdale. Then the withdrawals started. Brooks Koepka, Justin Rose, Tony Finau. 4 players pulled out, leaving fans demanding answers. But Scheffler? He's still in the field. He's the betting favorite. And the golf world is watching to see if he can finally break his 2026 winless drought. The date was July 7, 2026. The Renaissance Club in North Berwick, Scotland, was preparing for the Genesis Scottish Open, the final tune-up before the Open Championship at Royal Birkdale. A $9 million purse, a 156-player field. The world's best golfers were supposed to be there. Then the withdrawals started, and they didn't stop. Brooks Koepka, the 5-time major winner who had received a sponsor's exemption into the field, abruptly withdrew. The reason? A recurring ulnar nerve issue in his left hand that had first flared up during the RBC Canadian Open. Keith Mitchell followed suit, pulling out alongside Koepka. Tony Finau, the 6-time PGA Tour winner, withdrew on the eve of the tournament without explanation. Justin Rose, who had played the Scottish Open for 5 consecutive years, was suddenly absent from the field. The exodus extended far beyond the headline names. Taylor Pendrith, Rico Hoey, Jonathan Vegas, Brice Garnett, Joel Dahman, Bo Hostler, Chandler Phillips, Zicheng Du, and Seamus Power all pulled out. Michael Hollick, fresh off a win at the BMW International Open, withdrew to celebrate. The field was hemorrhaging players, and the golf world was demanding answers. But the man who had the answers wasn't even there. Phil Mickelson was not in the field. The 6-time major winner had withdrawn from the Open Championship just weeks earlier, ending a 17-year streak of appearances at golf's oldest major. He had played just one competitive event in 2026. He had missed the Masters, the PGA Championship, and the US Open. He had become a ghost, haunting the sport he once dominated from the shadows. And then, the ghost spoke. The silence from the Mickelson camp had been deafening for months. Then, in a series of social media posts that sent shockwaves through the golf world, Phil Mickelson finally broke his silence. Not about his own scandal. Not about the allegations that had stripped him of his membership at the Farms Golf Club. Not about the bombshell report that accused him of showing a lewd photograph to the wife of a fellow professional. About the Genesis Scottish Open. About the mass exodus of players. About the system that was collapsing around them. The system is broken, Mickelson wrote, and what happened in Scotland is only the beginning. The posts were vintage lefty, defiant, unapologetic, and absolutely devastating. Look at the withdrawals, he continued. Koepka is hurt, Finau is burned out, Rose is prioritizing his family, and the rest, they're just tired. Tired of a schedule that demands everything and gives nothing back. Tired of a tour that treats players like commodities. Tired of a system that has lost its way. The post went viral within hours. Fans who had been demanding answers finally got them. But the answers were not what anyone expected. Mickelson was not blaming the players. He was blaming the tour. 5 signature events in 6 weeks, he wrote. $20 million purses that sound impressive but come at a cost. The players are exhausted. The sponsors are walking away. And the Masters Committee had to break its silence because the Green Jackets saw what was happening and couldn't stay quiet. The reference to the Masters Committee was a direct shot at the PGA Tour's club leadership. Just days earlier, the Green Jackets had issued an unprecedented statement criticizing the tour's signature event model. The integrity of championship golf is not for sale, the Masters Committee had said. Mickelson was echoing their words, amplifying their message, and using his platform to expose the chaos that had consumed the Genesis Scottish Open. I've been saying this for years, he wrote. The PGA Tour's model is broken. The players are paying the price. And what happened in Scotland is just the beginning. The withdrawals from the Genesis Scottish Open were not just a logistical nightmare. They were a symptom of a deeper crisis, one that Phil Mickelson had been warning about for years. The schedule had become the story of the season. 5 signature events in 6 weeks, $20 million purses that demanded more than any human body could sustain. A system that had turned the world's best players into machines grinding through an endless season. The players were exhausted. The fans were furious. And the PGA Tour's leadership was scrambling. But the scandal that Mickelson was exposing went deeper than the schedule. It was about the culture of professional golf, the pressure to perform, the expectation to show up, the consequence of saying no. Brooks Koepka has a hand injury that won't heal because he can't rest, Mickelson wrote. Tony Finau skipped his final chance to qualify for the Open because he's burned out. Justin Rose is absent for the first time in 5 years because he's prioritizing his family. And the tour's response? Silence. The post was a devastating indictment of the PGA Tour's leadership. Mickelson was not just criticizing the schedule, he was criticizing the culture that had created it. Players are afraid to speak up, he wrote. They're afraid to say no. They're afraid to prioritize their health over the tour's demands. And the tour is happy to keep pushing them until they break. The scandal that Mickelson was exposing was not about one tournament. It was about the entire structure of professional golf. The players were burning out, the sponsors were walking away, the fans were losing interest, and the tour's leadership was doing nothing to stop it. They've lost their way, Mickelson wrote, and what happened in Scotland is just the beginning. The Genesis Scottish Open went on without its biggest stars. Rory McIlroy, Jon Rahm, and Matt Fitzpatrick headlined the field. The $9 million purse was distributed. The 3 Open Championship qualifying spots were awarded. But the shadow of the withdrawals lingered, and the man who had exposed the chaos was nowhere to be found. Phil Mickelson had not played a competitive round in months. He had withdrawn from the Open Championship for the first times in 17 years. He had been stripped of his membership at the Farms Golf Club. He had faced allegations that threatened to destroy his legacy, and yet he was still fighting. I've been saying this for years, he wrote. The system is broken, and what happened in Scotland is only the beginning. The words hung in the air like a prophecy. Mickelson had spent years warning about the PGA Tour's financial model. He had called its leadership obnoxious greed. He had burned every bridge to the tour, and now he was being vindicated. The 2026 Genesis Scottish Open will be remembered for many things. The $9 million purse, the world-class links course, the 3 Open Championship qualifying spots. But what the golf world will remember most is the mass exodus of players, and the man who exposed the scandal that no one wanted to see. Phil Mickelson had broken his silence, and the golf world would never be the same. The withdrawals from the Genesis Scottish Open were not just a scheduling inconvenience. They were a warning shot. A signal that the PGA Tour's biggest stars were no longer willing to be treated like commodities in a system that demanded everything and gave nothing back. The fans were furious. The media was critical. The tournament organizers were scrambling. But the players were united in their frustration. Brooks Koepka had been managing a recurring hand injury that threatened his Open Championship preparation. Tony Finau had made the difficult decision to prioritize rest over a last-ditch qualification attempt. Justin Rose had chosen family over a 5th consecutive Scottish Open appearance. Keith Mitchell had withdrawn without explanation, and the exodus had extended far beyond the 4 headline names. The timing could not have been worse. The Genesis Scottish Open is one of the most prestigious events on the DP World Tour calendar, co-sanctioned with the PGA Tour and offering 3 spots in the Open Championship to the leading non-exempt finishers. It is the final tune-up before the season's final major. It is supposed to be a showcase. Instead, it had become a symbol of the PGA Tour's deepening crisis. The tournament would go on without them. But the damage had been done. The fans were furious. The media was critical. And the PGA Tour's leadership was left to explain why its big stars had vanished without a trace. Phil Mickelson had exposed the scandal, and the golf world would never be the same. Phil Mickelson has exposed the Genesis Scottish Open scandal, and the golf world is absolutely stunned. The 6-time major winner broke his silence to reveal the chaos behind the mass exodus of players from the $9 million event. Brooks Koepka, Tony Finau, Justin Rose, Keith Mitchell, and a dozen others all withdrew, leaving fans demanding answers. The system is broken, Mickelson wrote. And what happened in Scotland is only the beginning. The withdrawals were not just a scheduling nightmare. They were a symptom of a deeper crisis. The PGA Tour's schedule is unsustainable. The players are exhausted, the sponsors are walking away, and the Masters Committee has already broken its silence, issuing an unprecedented statement criticizing the Tour's signature event model. Mickelson, who has been absent from competitive golf for months, used his platform to expose the truth that no one else would speak. The players are burned out. The system is broken. and the chaos at the Genesis Scottish Open is just the beginning. The golf world is stunned, not by the withdrawals, but by who is warning them about it. Phil Mickelson, the man who burned every bridge to the PGA Tour, is now holding up a mirror to its collapse.